wake up. Before your feet even touch the ground, the glow of your phone fills your face. You check, you scroll, you respond, you get to work. Technically, you're doing everything you're supposed to. Emails get answered, deadlines get met, smiles get managed. From the outside, it looks like you've got it together. But something's off, and you can feel it. There's this quiet dissonance humming beneath the surface, like you're going through the motions of someone else's life. Not unhappy exactly, but not lit up either. The days blend together, full but somehow hollow. You start to wonder, is this it? Not in a dramatic, life crisis kind of way, but in a softer, subtler ache, a slow drifting from your own sense of purpose. It's a strange kind of emptiness, one that doesn't scream, but nags. One that doesn't break you, but quietly wears you down. And maybe you've told yourself it's just a phase, or that you should be grateful. But deep down, you know this feeling isn't random. It's a signal, a quiet invitation to come back to yourself, because the truth is, being busy isn't the same as being aligned, and functioning isn't the same as feeling alive. You might call it burnout, or maybe you've labeled it as being lazy, unmotivated, stuck in a rut. That's the language we tend to reach for, words that make it sound like a temporary glitch in productivity. But if you're honest with yourself, there's something deeper going on. A quiet voice beneath all the noise that doesn't just say, "I'm tired," but something far more unsettling. "I don't know who I am anymore." And that's a hard thing to admit, because it's not just about energy levels or getting things done. It's about disconnection from your passions, your sense of direction, even from your own reflection in the mirror. Somewhere along the way, you lost track of yourself, not all at once, but in tiny moments of compromise, distraction, and survival. And now here you are, still moving, still performing, still trying. But underneath it all, there's a part of you quietly asking to be remembered, to be seen again. This isn't just about burnout. It's about identity, about the ache of living a life that no longer fits the shape of who you are, or who you're becoming. Nietzsche didn't believe life was meant to be comfortable. He wasn't interested in safety or ease. What mattered to him was growth, what he called becoming, not in the sense of reaching some final perfected state, but in the deeper sense of transformation, of stepping willingly into discomfort, because that's where something real begins. So when you feel lost, numb, or uncertain, when you wake up and wonder why nothing feels alive anymore, that's not a defect. That's the soul stirring. It's your deeper self tapping you on the shoulder, whispering, "This isn't it." You've drifted, maybe not all at once, but gradually, through small compromises, silent resentments, or routines that made you forget what it feels like to be lit up from the inside. Nietzsche wouldn't tell you to fix yourself. He'd tell you to return, to realign with what matters, with vitality, risk, and desire. The ache you feel, that's not something to numb. It's a message, an invitation, to stop performing the version of you that keeps others comfortable, and instead, to step into the raw, flawed, unfinished version of you that's real. Because the goal isn't to feel better. The goal is to become more yourself, fiercely, honestly, even if it hurts, especially if it hurts. That's where the transformation lives. Returning to yourself isn't just hard, it's radical. Especially in a world that constantly pulls you away from your center. We're surrounded by noise, notifications, deadlines, 100 expectations. We're told that if we're busy, we must be doing something right. That if we're productive, we must be okay. But deep down, we know better. There's a quiet voice that asks, at what cost? Somewhere along the way, we learned to sidestep anything that felt too uncomfortable, to avoid stillness, because in stillness, the truth speaks. We were taught to treat life like a project, organize it, polish it, make it efficient. But life isn't a spreadsheet, and you're not a machine. Nietzsche saw through all of this. He believed that discomfort wasn't an obstacle, it was the doorway. the ache you feel, the questions you've been avoiding. That's not weakness. That's the beginning of becoming. He warned that when we cling to comfort, we risk staying small. Our routines, our distractions, they can become cages dressed up as stability. So yes, this journey back to yourself will be messy. It will stretch you, but that's how you grow. Not by bypassing the hard parts, but by walking straight through them. Because what's waiting on the other side isn't perfection. It's truth, and it's yours. If this message is landing somewhere deep for you, if you've felt that quiet disorientation, like life is moving but something inside you feels paused, know that you're not alone. Really, that sense of something's missing, even when everything seems fine on the outside. It's more common than most people admit. And it doesn't mean you're lost or broken. It means you're waking up. This space was created for exactly that. For the people who are tired of surface-level solutions, who want real conversations about what it means to grow, to question, to come back to themselves. Here, we don't rush to tidy things up or pretend everything's fine. We slow down. We listen. We explore ideas from philosophy and psychology, not as abstract theories, but as tools for navigating the real, messy human experience. So if that sounds like something you've been looking for, something your inner voice has been quietly asking for, stick around. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell so you don't miss what's next. Each episode is a step deeper into this journey of becoming. I'd be honored to have you walk it with me. Take a breath. Let's keep going. Nietzsche doesn't hand you a warm blanket and whisper that everything will work out. He doesn't offer easy reassurance or tidy answers. What he gives instead are unsettling, necessary questions. The kind that shake the ground beneath you, not to leave you stranded, but to wake you up. What do you do when the world no longer tells you who to be? When religion, culture, tradition, once your guiding stars, start to fade and you're left staring into a blank sky, Nietzsche's answer is as demanding as it is liberating. You build your own meaning. No map, no script, just your will, your experience, your truth. He called it the will to power, but not power over others. This isn't about domination. It's about the deep, internal strength to rise from your own ruins, to face the chaos of life and say, I will make something of this, not by numbing the pain, but by turning it into something honest, something alive. At the core of Nietzsche's vision is self-overcoming, the radical belief that your pain isn't the enemy. It's the raw material of your becoming, the fire that tempers your spirit. So no, this path won't be comfortable, but it will be real. And if you have the courage to walk it, you just might discover the strength you didn't know was yours. And then, almost without realizing it, something begins to shift. It's not dramatic. There's no grand revelation, no perfect sunrise moment, just a quiet turning point. You stop waiting for clarity to crash in like thunder, waiting for someone to hand you permission, or for life to finally line up in a way that makes sense. You stop looking outward, toward other people's expectations, timelines, or definitions of success, for your direction. Instead, you pause, you breathe, and you ask yourself one question with unsettling honesty. Where have I stopped showing up for myself? That's the pivot. Because in asking that, you reclaim something essential: your agency, your ability to choose, even in the middle of uncertainty. The world doesn't have to change before you do. You don't need to feel ready or confident or certain. You just need to begin. And that beginning is powerful. Not because it fixes everything overnight, but because it breaks the spell of passivity. It reminds you that you're not just drifting, you're deciding. Step by step, breath by breath, you return to yourself. You stop waiting for control to arrive and start becoming someone who creates it. That's how transformation starts. Not with a plan, but with presence. Not with knowing the whole path, but with being willing to take the first step. But here's the truth most people won't tell you. Growth isn't a straight line. It's not a neat progression or a tidy before and after. It's messy. It loops. It asks you to revisit places you thought you'd outgrown. And the biggest resistance? It won't come from the outside world. Not at first. It comes from within. From that familiar, sharp-edged voice that lives in your mind. The inner critic. It doesn't shout. It whispers, "You're not enough. You always mess this up. It's too late for you." And the worst part? It sounds believable. Because it knows where you're vulnerable. It knows your story. Nietzsche saw this as the real battlefield. Not the fight against the world, but the confrontation with the parts of ourselves we've tried to exile. The fear we hide. The longing we ignore. The parts of us that still ache to be seen. But he also knew that transformation doesn't come from suppression. It comes from turning toward what we'd rather avoid. Not with judgment, but with a kind of fierce curiosity. What have I been running from? What part of me still needs compassion? True becoming isn't about discarding the old you. It's about integration. It's about making space for all of it. The fear, the doubt, the hope, and using it as fuel. Not to be perfect, but to be whole. Because that's where real strength lives. In your willingness to face yourself, fully. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, you begin to hear a different kind of voice. It's not urgent. It doesn't command or criticize. It doesn't measure your worth by productivity or compare you to anyone else. This voice is quiet, calm, steady, and for the first time in a long time, it feels true. And then it hits you. This voice is yours. Not the version shaped by expectations or worn down by the grind of trying to prove something, but the deeper voice, the one that's always been there, waiting beneath the noise, the striving, the masks. It doesn't demand perfection. It asks only for presence, to be with what's real in your life, your ache, your dreams, your doubt, your desire, to stop performing and start listening, really listening. Nietzsche said it best. Become who you are, not who the world told you to be, not the role you've been playing to keep the peace or earn approval, but the self you've quietly lost touch with, the one buried under years of survival and self-abandonment. This is the quiet revolution. It doesn't arrive with fanfare. It unfolds in moments of honesty, in the courage to pause, in the decision to return to yourself again and again. And when you do, everything begins to shift. Not because life suddenly gets easier, but because you finally start living from the inside out. You return to your world. Same home, same tasks, same responsibilities. The inbox is still overflowing. The dishes didn't wash themselves. Life keeps moving, just as it always has. But you are not quite the same. Something inside you has shifted. You're no longer swept away by the current of daily demands. You're rooted now, in intention, in awareness. Instead of reacting out of habit, you begin responding with clarity. Instead of drifting, you're choosing, deliberately, moment by moment. Even the smallest acts feel different when you're present in them. This is the quiet power Nietzsche spoke of. Not dramatic reinvention, but a deeper kind of change. He knew that when old meanings fall apart, when the identities and stories you once clung to stop making sense, it can feel like collapse. But it's not the end. It's an opening. The invitation isn't to rebuild the past. It's to author what comes next. To create a life that feels true, crafted from your own hands, shaped by your own values. This is what becoming really looks like. Not perfection, not certainty, but deliberate steps toward the life that's meant for you. It's slow, it's honest, and it's powerful in ways the outside world may never see, but you will feel it in every decision you make. You are not lazy, you are disoriented, and that's not a flaw, it's a signal. We don't say this enough. That fog you're feeling, that heaviness, that lack of direction, it doesn't mean you failed. It means you've been moving on autopilot, disconnected from what truly matters to you. You've been surviving instead of aligning. But now, something inside you is starting to stir. A quiet voice is rising, the one that remembers there's more. Because here's the truth. Your path isn't something waiting out there for you to discover. It's something you build, step by uncertain step, choice by honest choice. You're not meant to follow someone else's script. You're here to write your own. And with each decision to turn toward meaning instead of distraction, to be honest instead of hiding, to choose courage over comfort, you move closer. Closer to the self that's been lost in the noise. The self that isn't defined by how productive you are, how perfect you seem, or how well you fit in, but by how true you're willing to be. So if you feel lost right now, let that feeling be your invitation. This isn't your breaking point, it's your beginning. You're not drifting anymore, you're becoming, and that changes everything.